NBC 10 at Issue.
And back on NBC 10 at Issue, I'm Steve Highsmith. Pennsylvania's registered voters go to the polls November 2nd to elect a new U.S. Senator. We spoke the first half of this program with Republican Pat Toomey. With me now is the Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate, Joe Sestak. Congressman, good to see you again.
Good to see you again, Steve.
Well, now, if someone votes for you, would they be voting for more of the same that we've gotten from Congress the last 22 months and from the president?
They're going to be voting for someone who's actually a problem solver. 31 years in the U.S. military, Steve, on the ground in Afghanistan. We don't breed liberals or conservatives, but people who believe in practical solutions to our problems. There were some tough votes I had to take. Wish we didn't have to. But now we've got to control our debt, get small businesses to have the opportunity to prosper, and the middle class to have the opportunity to go forward.
Well, let's talk about some of those tough votes. The bank bailout, the stimulus, the health care plan. Were those good moves in hindsight?
They were unfortunately necessary. Look, did we want to take those votes? No. And are we getting the money back from the TARP and the car one? Yes. But if we hadn't done, for example, the stimulus, as we're heading into a depression, 8 million more Americans would have lost their jobs. Look, I remember my first job on a warship during the Vietnam War era. I was damage control officer if we were torpedoed. I had to do the same thing. I got there the year the recession began, Steve. We had to control the damage. Now let's get the economy going and not focus on corporations and tax cuts for them, but small businesses and their tax credits.
But when it comes to, say, Obama health care, for example, did Democrats misread the 2008 election into thinking that they had a mandate for sweeping change?
Great question, because they did think, the leadership, they were given a mandate. No. We were given an opportunity to lead, and leadership means coming back like a captain of a ship and sitting down with the crew, sitting down with the constituents, and explaining and listening. This bill was necessary to do the health care bill. It's why I went to Congress. In the military, everybody has health care, not for one reason. The dividends that accrue from healthy warriors, like when I was on the ground in Afghanistan, is immense. And when my daughter had her brain cancer, we were taken care of. We have about 66% of the uninsured here in the Philadelphia area working. We lose. We lose because they're not productive workers.
You were for the public option. You think the public option is something that still has to happen one day?
I think it's a good move in the terms of to increase the competitiveness of the marketplace. For example, health insurance companies, Steve, right now are exempt from antitrust law. They can collude together. So therefore, in Pennsylvania, 2 health insurance companies own 85% of the health insurance markets. By ripping that out, we can have better competition because it's about affordability.
Why not the Republican plan, which just says let people buy plans from other states?
Well, Steve, here's the interesting thing. We had that in the House bill, a national plan that Aetna or Blue Cross Blue Shield could have done across the states. People, small businesses could put their members in it. What we did end up with is, at least within the state, you can do that, and if 4 or 5 states together want to break down and have a plan go across, you can. The important thing, though, is make sure that there's a minimum level of benefits. For example, an insurance company will have to put its headquarters somewhere. If it goes to Alabama, there they don't have the right of appeal if your insurance company denies you coverage. And the Republicans don't say that, nor my opponent.
Let's go back to the economy for a moment directly. The conservatives, business leaders, and some pundits say that this administration has created a climate of uncertainty over taxes and over regulation, and that's preventing businesses from spending, from hiring. Do you hear them?
Yes. As a matter of fact, that's why I voted against going on adjournment here a few weeks ago. Matter of fact, I voted with only a couple Democrats until we extended for certainty the middle class tax cut. It took the Speaker of the House to come to the House floor and break my tie vote. We want to give, and I'm Vice Chairman of the Small Business Committee, certainty. For example, these alternative energy taxes, tax breaks, production and investment tax rates, let's extend them for 10 or 15 years to give them certainty. I think, and my party has to understand, business is a good term, particularly when small is in front of it. They create 80% of all jobs.
And having said that, though, the other side says, yes, but still you voted for the $800 billion stimulus plan. You voted for these things. They don't believe. They're trying to tell people that, look, it wouldn't have been a Great Depression, and we would have come out of this sooner if you hadn't increased the deficit and the national debt as much as we have.
Well, again, practical solutions to our problems. Even John McCain's economist, Mark Zandi, said we would have lost $8 million more unemployed. We had lost 3 million the last 6 months of the Bush tenure, and 3 million the first 6 months of President Obama. We had a problem. Now, Congress Toomey says we would have a slightly harder down. Yes, 8 million more uninsured.
You and Pat Toomey have described each other as ideological extremists not fitting most of Pennsylvanians. NARAL Pro-Choice gives you a 100, the ACLU an 83, the American Conservative Union a 0, Alliance for Retired Americans a 97, the NEA grades you an A, and the Chamber of Commerce a 61, Gun Owners of America an F-. In all of that, is that how you would vote going forward? Is that reflective?
I look at a problem and then go forward. Let's take the Alliance for Retired Americans. I believe we have to preserve Social Security. Congressman Toomey says take Social Security and give it to Wall Street and let them invest it. 20 million of those retired Americans would have moved into poverty if their Social Security was invested in Wall Street.
But he says a portion of that, and he says only younger people.
Yes, but then when you flip to 2 pages later in his book, it says we'd have to borrow $5 trillion from the Chinese because the youth pay in for the senior Social Security. Why borrow
he says
from
that
the
short
Chinese?
Term, looking generations down the road, it's better for Social Security.
And then what he doesn't say is what happens when those youth become 65 or 70 and another recession happens. Remember, 2/3 of our seniors have always relied for the majority of on Social Security.
Got to take a
Don't
break
take
there.
the security out of Social
Continue
Security.
in a moment. More with Congressman Joe Sestak on NBC 10 Edition.